Hello, 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 everybody. It's Thursday night. What are we going to do? We're going to paint. We're painting a nice Bob Ross painting. And so everybody in class today did a great job. I did not so bad a job, so no big changes tonight. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. This is it's basically a Bob Ross painting. And so we're going to have some fun here tonight. And somebody just looked at it here, and thanks for those people coming. And next week, I made a big mistake last week because I said I was going to be, I was 1 week early. And so next week, I will be in the Mississippi Morning the art studio, and not this week. I totally made a total mistake on that. I guess I was so excited about getting up there. And so this week, we have a beer from Germany. And so this week, look at this. We have a Flensburg Dunkel. And a Flensburg Dunkel is a dark beer. Dunkel means dark in German. And so we're going to try this one. Look at this top on this thing. Isn't this great? So we're going to see what this is like. Let's open this up. Oh, look at that. So we're going to give a nice pour. See if we can do a nice pour. See if I can not put a big head on it right away. There we go. Look at that. Perfect pour this time. Nice dark beer. And so let's see what this one tastes like. So cheers, everybody. Cheers. Let's see what this one is like. Oh, that's good. That's pretty good. Okay, it's a little bit bitter, and like you guys know, I don't like it's too bitter, but I'm gonna give this a 10. That's very good. Very, very good. Good German dark beer. All right, so thanks everybody for coming by. And like I said, everybody did a great job on this one tonight, or this afternoon, and so I think we're doing a good job. You guys are gonna love this one. This one is basically, a happy little painting. It's a happy little Bob Ross painting. So let's go right into all the newcomers to let you know what my website is. And still, they haven't figured out how to get my website on. There's some kind of problem, but I can't scroll through. But this is my website if you want to get anything that you want to know about me and where I'm going to be. And again, next week I will be at the Mississippi Morning Art Studio. I hear, like Linda said, that there's 2 more openings. So anybody else wants to show up, contact them. And then go to my website, and there's all the information there. And supplies we're using tonight are, again, my Holbein brushes, Holbein watercolors, and my Stonehenge aqua paper. And so let's go right to the value study and just see what we're going to be doing. So here I put a little filter on this one today. I'm going to show you that this is one painting where the color is going to really mean a lot. We're going to be using blues and oranges so that those are complements. And so this is the one where when you're doing a black and white of it, it doesn't show as good as what the actual painting is. So if you look at the painting here, we have orange lit background mountains, so the light is hitting over the top, and everything else down here is in shadow. So that means we got a warm background, cool foreground. Though we have a little bit of reflection in the water, and I moved these trees. They're right in the center of my center of interest. This is the center of interest, so I'm moving these over. Don't put them right there because it's just blocking my view of the beautiful river going down the river, or if this is a lake. I'm not sure where this is at. And again, move these over a little bit. And you don't have to even draw these in really, and just make sure that the water is really nice. And then it's gonna be dark on top of the lake, and so you don't have to worry about that. And so, and I put a little bit of filter on it. I kind of posterize it. But see how this one actually, this is one time when the actual color really helps out the painting dramatically. Where in a value study, a lot of times it's the values that make it dramatic. This is one time we're going to do a little bit different, where we're let the color be the way of making the painting. This is actually a technique that I've seen John Pike use, where he puts a light on the top of the mountains or top of the hills and lets everything else be in shadow, because everything besides it's in the foreground is in shadow. Though I'm going to show you what I did here. Let's go to our tabletop right away. And here's what I did this afternoon. And as you can see, what I did up here is that I put opaque colors of light hitting the front of the trees. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to put a little bit of color in there. And so let's get going. And let me just say hi to everybody. And I have another swig of beer that's really good. Let's see what we got. Ann, Claudia, Tom, Lynn, Barbie, Paula, Maura, Joyce, Kathy, Linda, Barbara, Star. Hey guys, Thanks for dropping by. This is gonna be a fun one, actually. And you don't have to. And I know some of you are not gonna do it while you're watching. That's fine. You don't have to ever do it when you're watching. Sometimes I like to just, even when the club I belong to, the Lakes Region Watercolor Guild. We just had Benita Pappas. I think she's from Oregon. She did an amazing demonstration this morning for our club, and it was on Zoom. And I'm going to be putting it on their Facebook page. So looking for that one. She did really great things. I'm going to mention those as we're painting along that I thought was really, really good examples and exercises. And she's a really good teacher, and she gave a great, great video. So let's go on. Let's see if there's any questions. Getting ready to leave Gulf Shores and head to Minnesota. All right, Kathy. Anxious to see this. Thanks, Joyce. All right, Bob Ross. Loves Bob Ross. Hi, David from Green. And we got Claudia again from the Virgin Islands. So it's nice and warm down there. It just started snowing here. And I'm just leaving for, I'm leaving for Duluth tomorrow. And I'm going to be going up skiing. I'm going to do a little skiing before I get over to Winona. And so going a little bit farther north, and yeah, we'll see. We'll come back down and on following Thursday. And again, next Thursday, I am doing, it's going to be a tugboat because we're on the Mississippi River. So I figure we're going to be doing a tugboat next week. And so let's get down to this one, though. All right, so let's see. How come this is out of light here a little bit? There's some more light on it. All right, so which one we do? What do we do first? Of course, light to dark, right? And so what's the lightest part of this painting? Is the mountains. The mountains are the lightest, and they're light, so that's what we're going to start with. You always start with the light to dark. And even if it's the background, foreground, whatever, light to dark is usually the way you go. So I am going to do the mountains right from the get-go. And I'm not going to wet, because I want a hard edge, so I'm just going to wet inside the mountains as I go along. I call this wetting as you go along. And again, if anybody new here or want to ask a question, just put it up there. Once in a while I'll look up, and I will try to answer those. And look at my beautiful palette, how dirty it is. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of, give myself a little bit of room for some orange. You can tell I was doing the dark darks at the end of the painting, and this is the same palette I used this afternoon. And so, all right, so let's give ourselves a little bit of color here. Wait, hold on 1 second. I got to put a little bit lighter on here. Okay, there we go. A little bit lighter. There we go. And so let me just wet and get some orange. I'm going to use some more of the brilliant orange. And like I said, I'm going to wet it as I go along the parts that I want to be orange. And I'm going to do all the mountains right away with the grays and stuff. But I'm going to first put the light parts down first. And I'll wet it as I go along. I'm just going to go in here. And remember, the watercolor dries about 20% lighter, and that's actually not orange. So, okay, we did a little prematurely put orange in that area where we shouldn't have, but that's okay. Just going to keep on going. I'm just going to kind of go to the top parts of this and make it, again, knowing that it's going to dry about 20% lighter, I make it 20% darker. Don't be afraid of the color and really pushing it, because it also gets about 20% less vibrant too. And here it is really nice. And all right, so now we're going to wet down here. Here's my tablecloth, my towel as my tablecloth, and so that's for anybody new here. I use a towel on my surface so I can rub it in. I don't have to put anything in my hands to actually do this. I'm just going to go in here, and now as I go down here, if I use blue with this yellowish orange, I'm going to get green. So I'm going to go stick with a little bit more of a lavender and a little bit more of a gray to kind of manipulate around the orange and make my darks kind of a bluish violet. I can go into ultramarine, my permanent violet, and my lavender. And I'm just going to kind of come down here. And I'm not doing my darkest darks yet in the mountain. I will try to get some of them, but I'm just going in and get like the middle tones. I can come back in a little bit later and get it a little bit darker. And like this whole mountain is a little bit darker. And you notice I'm going right to the edge, but the sky will be light right there. So I have to make that edge pretty exact, you know, so I don't need to have it soft edged. I can make it nice and hard edged. And I could do this, I guess I could do the sky first and then do it on top of it, but I just want to keep this nice and orangey. And then with the violets and orange work pretty well together. And I'll put this little green in there. And so what you're doing is you're making it hit the orange part is on top of there. And so we're keeping that in the distance and lit up. Where this is going to be in shadow. Down here it's all in shadow. So don't be afraid of making some nice blues and grays. And don't be afraid of grays. People are just always think that's mud. It's not mud, it's just a gray. You can put a little brown in there too if you want, my brown is kind of purplish brown. It's like a cousin of purple. Brown, I always say, is a cousin of purple. And so we're just gonna go in here, get my darks, and try to get them all done as much as possible. Again, it's all about how much pigment you have in your brush to how much water you have on your brush. And one thing that Vanita this morning said in her demonstration was that her big thing is color harmony. And she adds a strip of watercolor paper, which I may start doing for you guys, is putting a strip of paper next to your paper to kind of put down the color, make sure the color harmonizes with the rest of the picture. And it's a really good suggestion, because a lot of times, let's say in your photograph, you have a color that just doesn't, it's there, the blue sky may be really, really blue, but it doesn't match what your color harmony is in your painting. So don't put it in if it doesn't match your painting. You want it to look like it's part of the harmony of your painting. So your painting has a certain, I always call it color scheme, and like when you're using complements to make it, like this is blue and orange basically, but not like bright blue, but it is that's a combination I'm kind of using. So I'm going to go down here, make this a little bit warmer. This is kind of like the foreground. I'm still going darker in this, but I'm just going to go right up to the shoreline. I'm going to go right into this amount of trees right here that it'll be darker, right? And so here we're just going to put a little bit of this in there, and it started drying already, so I'm going to get a watermark, but that's okay. I'm just going to make it nice and tint, like a tint right over here. And I got to make sure I get the difference between the light and the dark right here. Otherwise it will not look like the sun is coming right over the top of there and just hitting those parts. And now this little bit of snow here, I'm going to put that in, like this is the color of the snow. This is the color of the snow I'm putting in right now. And then as I go down, put my darks in there later on, that'll be where I get the look of this being the snow. It's negative painting the snow in. This is the color of the snow right now. I know it looks dark, but when I put a darker color in there, when I put this trees in there, I'm not going to put, well, I can put some of it in now too. I mean, anything you can put in right from the get-go, if you want a soft edge, is fine. That's more than acceptable. I'm going to put a little bit darker right here. Any questions? No? Hi, everybody. And so we're going to go in here and just get my middle tones. I'm not putting my darkest darks in there yet. I'm going to do, you know me, the darks come last. First you get your lights and middle tones, and then we'll come in there later and get the darks create details, create shapes and stuff. And right now this is just the middle tones, going right into this part here, coming down. And you guys are going to do a great job. Everybody did a great job today. This is Bob Ross 101. Mountains, trees, lake, it's just a happy little painting. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, 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 cheers. Boy, that's a good beer. That's a 10. That's a very good beer. Those Germans know how to make their beer. It's right from Flensburg. Alright, so we're going down here. And even like if there's, I probably should have had a little bit more texture in there. I'm gonna wait for it to dry now because it's dry already up there. So if I go in there now, it'll just give me watermarks. I don't want watermarks as my texture. I'm just gonna actually go in there with right when it's dry, a little bit of the orange, and then just take it from there. Here, I can put a little bit more of the blue in there. I'll put a tint over that to make it look more, textury. Because these mountains are pretty textury. But again, don't feel like you need to get the texture right from the get-go. And again, when you put your darks in there later on, that's when you can get a lot of the stuff happening too. I'm going to make this a little bit lighter, pull some of that out of there. All right, from here, what did I do? I did the water next. And I probably should do the sky first because then I can put the sky color right into the water. But I'm just going to do the opposite. And actually, in the photograph, the sky is a little bit different blue than the water. And it's like a greenish teal kind of greenish blue. And so I'm going to match this a little bit better than what the photograph is. Again, from what Vanita had said this morning from Oregon, she's a great watercolor, so take a look at her stuff. It's really, really nice, really amazing demonstration that she did this morning for our club. And so we're gonna make sure that the sky and the match together. And basically, this green here comes from the the water has a little bit of color into it, and so you're reflecting into that water this shadow, and then the sky is down here, the color of the sky. So, but I want to make it that different. I want to make sure that this sky part and this is the same values and colors. And like I said, this is one of those paintings where color is a little bit important on what you use. And so that the fact that the color part is really your hero. I mean, this kind of gives you that feel of like the sun coming right over the edge of those mountains, and really works well. So let me just stop talking and just do the water. So let's just wet the water here and go right over your trees. Don't go around your trees. Even the parts that are, if you want to put the top of the trees to have, you can see I didn't even pencil them in. I didn't pencil them in. I just put a line where I think I'm going to put them. And even that was too much. I probably should erase that because I may move them over even a little bit more. But I'm just going to wet this and use the color I think I'm going to use for the sky. And then I can use this color for the water and then also the sky. And again, what do you start out with? You start out with the lights. And what is light in the water? The reflection in the water. So right away I'm going to put that in there first. Always start with your lights first and go from there to your dark. Light is right here. I'm going to kind of mimic what is above there. You look at the picture. I'm even going to leave a little bit of light like it has in the photograph here. It's a little bit of white. I'll leave a little bit of that in there too. What the heck, might as well. And even this reflection of the darks, I'm going to put that in there right now and not later. You can put parts in, like if there's a wave, you can put that in there later, but it's going to be pretty much soft edge stuff I'm going to be doing now. I'm dipping into Prussian blue back here. I start out with like a Prussian blue. And make this water a little bit greener than I think, because I liked everybody. I did more of a blue, and everybody else did like in the photograph, and theirs turned out better than mine. So I'm gonna try it this time. I'm gonna try to do a little bit more greenish blue for the water. And my brush strokes when I do water is always like this, horizontal. Don't do up and down right away. Yeah, you can kind of put it in if it's soft and it's like that. You can kind of do that. But first put in your waves and stuff this way, across horizontally, because that makes it look level. But the lines should be very horizontal and level. Don't make it on a curve or anything. Even if there's reflections in there, start out with it straight across. You can go on an angle with your brush strokes like this, but make sure that you can keep it nice and even. I'm going to go with a nice brighter blue down the bottom here. And so down here, I'm going to come up to the light part, and you can tell I didn't wet right here, so I'm getting a hard edge. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. It's okay to have a little bit of, I'm going to put trees here anyway, so I'm going to put a little bit of a light hard edge there, and that's fine. That'd be this color of the sky then. Color of the sky is right there, and maybe make it a little bit darker down here. And it goes from a light to a dark to a light. And then once you got to figure out the amount of water, and so this mountain is going to reflect, whatever's on top. So I'm going to try to make this look like it's the mountain coming through here. And I got to get a little bit more pigment because this is really wet. So don't put water in your brush when you already have a lot of water down there. Then what I can do is if I take a thick amount of pigment, and there's actually something here. If there's a little bit of pigment here in my brush and no water, then the water's already there, so I can then control my paint. I can control it and actually draw with it. You can see I can just go in there and I can harden the edge or make it a little bit harder than what it is. See, I'm just it's not going to run all over the place because I'm using pretty thick pigment. And also right here, the reflection of this is going to be really dark, and so I'm using a little bit of Prussian blue, a little bit of black. And boy, my palette is just really coming apart now. It's like, if you can see, it's like breaking all over. I gotta get a new palette in there. Gotta transfer my paint over though. And so I don't want to waste any paint. And then down here, I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. I gotta do a little quicker so that I don't lose my water. And so then right down through here. And see how I'm making all the lines like vertical, horizontal. Definitely horizontal. Make your lines horizontal, and then I'm going to go a little bit darker. And where's my spray bottle? Oh no, it's not in my, I put it in my bag. Shoot, I don't have a spray bottle to wet this, so I'm going to wet it lightly with my brush. always be prepared with your supplies. Don't have a supply like, especially your mister. That would be perfect right here, and it's starting to dry a little bit, so if I can just, I can also do it with the brush a little bit, but it's just so nice that mister to just go in there. And over here, we're gonna get some darks through here. And again, look at my brushes going back and forth. I don't go, if you, some people like to, if there's like a reflection that goes down, you can kind of do that like this if it's wet, but straight down. If you're gonna do a reflection straight down, make it definitely straight. But other than that, you want to kind of go on a horizontal or vertical, no on an angle of anything. You can go like this on an angle, like you can bring it like this like this, but that's fine. But see how there's a little reflection there, so should I gotta put something underneath it here. Hold on, let me see what I can put underneath there. Let's see, put something underneath here. There we go. Still a little bit angled. So you got a little bit more. This is Prussian blue and black, and Prussian blue has a little bit of green in it, so that's kind of nice. I want it more turquoise. I want the water to be more turquoise like it is in the picture. All the students had done that this afternoon, and it looked really good, and I didn't. So I sometimes copy what you guys do too. You know, it doesn't. You know, look what everybody else does, and if you're in a class, you know, learn from other people too. It's a good thing to do. I'm gonna come in here. Any questions? What brand of palette is that? It's a Holbein palette, like any other one of those really plastic. You know, if you look at this, look at how it's breaking right here, and it's just one of those cheap, you know, cheap pallets that's broken all over, and the sides are coming apart. But there's just those. I think they're probably all made by the same place. It's a really cheap plastic little thing. They don't cost very much, but I'm still trying to get myself to. I'm trying to make one of these pallets. Get a manufacturer to make one for me, which hopefully soon. It's going to be metal though, and it's going to be like a tin, and then you can switch your colors around, because I don't like the fact that I can't switch my colors around on that palette. But thanks for asking. Okay, so that's pretty much the water, and let's go a little bit more here. Get a little bit more of this trees and the mountains in there. See how I can draw inside a wet wash, and I can control the edge. It's about how much paint you have on your brush. And for some reason there's like, looks like trees coming right down through here. Those not trees back there, but it looks like there's like a little bit of a reflection of something back here. And over here there's some trees, and so I'm just gonna put that in there. And most of this is gonna be covered up anyways, but just gonna put a little reflections in there. And I'm gonna make a little bit more orange in here too. I'm gonna put a little bit of orange. Just put it right in there, and it's gonna turn a little green. But these trees are gonna be kind of dark green anyway, so that's okay. See if I get brilliant orange has more red in it, so go more with the more brilliant orange, a reddish orange to get. So if you're using blue, use an orange that has more red in it, so it doesn't turn green. If you want to put orange in there, see how then this will not. But this one has a little bit more yellow in it than orange, so I'm just gonna put this in here a little bit. Oh boy! Now I'm gonna get a watermark. Where's my sprayer when I need it? Okay, there we go. Alright, so that's cool. So now we've got the mountains almost done. Now we're going to go into the sky, because now we always work the big areas. So we're going to do the sky now. And with the sky, I'm going to go from a light to a dark, and I'm going to take it right to the edge. And so it's a little bit more careful with this time than I normally am. And I'm not going to want a soft edge there, because I want you to see it nice and harsh. And it's part of the composition that this is the lightest light, and so and the most color. So you're looking at this area as your center of interest. And so that's part of it. And so we're gonna wet up here first a little bit. And if you wet with a little bit of the color you're gonna use, that's fine. We can see where you're going. I'm just gonna kind of come down here. I'm gonna even leave a little bit of white on the one side here. Make sure it's dry so you don't have any watermarks. You don't want watermarks unless that's your kind of style. I know Bjorn Bernstrom has that kind of style where he uses watermarks to his advantage. Like he uses them in his paintings. I just saw on Facebook he just had a show, and some stuff was amazing with his watermarks. He uses, like I said, he uses them to his advantage. And so I'll leave a little bit of white on the left side because the sun's coming over this way. So on the left side I'll leave a little bit of that, and I'll come down. And now this is not going to be the color yet completely. I'm just putting down water with a little bit of color so I can tell where I'm going. If I just use water without any pigment in it, how do I know where I'm going? Because I can't see. It's just wet. And so now I'm going to wet it, but with a little bit of color. And that doesn't have to be the color you're using exactly. Now it's all wet, and now it'll go in with the colors I want. So down here, I'm going to float in a little bit of the turquoise kind of horizon blue. I use horizon blue from Holbein. And they come down, and it has white in it. But when the way I'm using it very wet. So what happens is that it gets transparent. Even though it's an opaque color, it's typically an opaque color if you use it really thick, but it's not when you're using it with a lot of water and you're putting it into water. So here now I'm going to make this a little bit darker sky. I'm just going to let that bleed together. And so see how I let the colors blend themselves. That's one thing she was talking about this morning. Benita was talking about how, a lot of artists, talk about, we say it in different words, but we want the paint to do its own thing. You don't need to, watercolor is all about what it does for you. You don't have to do a lot when it comes to like blending and stuff, because the water, it does it on its own. You just let it go and let it make its little bit of pattern or texture, and so it's going to smoothen itself out. And it looks like this paper was damaged a little bit. You have a little bit of like if you have a paper too long sometimes and you rub it, you can get like a kind of a weird effect. But I think it'll be fine if you leave it nice and leave it, again, blend on its own. You don't have to blend it with watercolor. With like oils and acrylics, you have to do the blending. With watercolor, you don't have to blend it all. And actually, if I wanted a cloud in there, I could actually put white paint in there too. It's like, it's not against the law. You can go ahead and do that if you want some clouds, or paint around it. That's fine too. And now this is going to get about 20% lighter, and so that's not dark enough. So I'm going to go in there with a little bit darker. Try to get a little bit darker, maybe some Prussian blue in there too. That's what I use down here, some Prussian blue, so I get a little bit of that in the sky too. And again, if your brush is the same wetness as the surface, then what you can do is when the same surface is the same, you're just pushing pigment around then. If you have your brush being the same wetness, you're just pushing pigment around, and then sooner or later it will soften itself because it's using the water to soften itself. You don't have to soften it. I'm just making it even. I'm putting it a little bit darker, making it even, and it will, again, it'll make a nice wash for me. All right, and so we're gonna. Oh boy, there's something wrong with that paper. Oh well, you can tell it's when you rough up a paper that's older, and this is I just found it. All right, no, actually this is a brand new sheet of Stonehenge, but I had it out, and so I think it rubbed against something. I think it must have rubbed because I can see it's like it has a little bit of rough texture to it. All right, anyways, the crappy plastic palettes are really annoying. Yes, Lynn, they are. I'm on my third one. Will you tin palette have white enamel? Yes, I want white. I definitely want white inside the panel. They make them already like that, pencil cases with white in there. I'm not sure if it's going to be enamel or what it's going to be, but I'm trying to look for a company that will make it for me. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to go to... Let's see, now we're going to go in the background here and start working forward because we got our sky, we got our mountains, we got our water, and we have plenty of time. And so we're going to go in here now and get our darks. We're going to work from back to front and and that is dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to work from back to front. And let me see if we can't get these darks in here. And so now we're going to get the texture that I didn't have in the beginning. So here the texture of the mountain is a little bit that, so I'm making a little bit of a tint. I'm using like dirty water here for my palette because I know that's the color I use. Excuse me. And so I'm just gonna go in here and put a little texture in here into the mountains, and maybe a little bit darker here as it goes to the side here. And just gonna give it a little texture. This is like a tint. It's not much of a wash. Remember, I had in my newsletter I had about what's a tint and what's a wash. So I'm doing a tint. I'm just doing a little tint of color. It's not really that much pigment, and it's very light. Hardly any water. Hardly any paint, just enough to give me a little bit of texture. It's in my light area, so I don't want to overdo it. I just want enough so I can show a little bit of texture. I'll go back in here and get like some of the hard edges that I want. And there's that little bit of snow that is up there, and so again, this is the color of the snow, so I'm getting the darker parts of the mountain now. And then I'm going to go around the snow, which is already there. It's underneath. See, I'm just going to go there, and so suddenly this dark becomes the mountain, and the first wash that we put down there becomes the snow. And so that's how come a lot of times people don't understand the negative painting, how that works. It's basically that up there is snow, but it's not white, it's in the shadows. So what you're doing is you're putting it up there first, and then you're putting the dark around it. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand, especially beginners, when they're looking at, because you're always painting things, right? You're painting something, and this is you're painting around it to actually create it, and that becomes very hard for a lot of people to comprehend when they're beginners. They're like, what? And so, in time, you start getting used to knowing that the process you take is to do light to dark, and then if you need a dark or light sticking through, you paint around it to create the dark, to create the light snow that you have here. See, we're just going to go through here, and if you want a gray, just take whatever's in your palette. You used all this stuff in your palette, so I'm just going to come down here now, make my little darks, and this is hard edge, but it's not. It's okay to be hard edge with this because it's not that different a contrast. It's not so contrasty, so it won't look really, really hard edge. And that was when we did our John Pike painting. That's kind of what happens. You can make a hard edge as long as your contrast is not really super contrasty. Then it will look fine. It will look soft edge even. And so I'm coming down in here. And I'm gonna make this a little bit of the, I'm not sure if that's snow or sand. I'm going up the hill or land that's not covered in snow. And then we're just gonna come here. And again, I don't go towards the picture to a T. I don't sit there and go, oh man, I don't have exactly that for the picture. And I'm not a very tight painter, so I'm not copying it to a T either. And I'm just copying what I feel I want to put into the painting. And there's a lot of people who do their hyperrealism, and of course they're going to put exactly everything in there to the point where if there's a a little guy down there, and you're going to put him in. And I don't do that. I work more for an impressionistic style. It's more impressionistic for me to, and I just did a commission that took me like 2 days, and man, I cannot work on a painting more than 2 days. It just drives me out off the wall. It's just so hard for me to sit there and just work on the same painting for 2 days straight. It was a commission I did in acrylic, and it was at 40 inches by 40 inches, so it was pretty big. And it was also a painting I did before, so that's even worse. I don't like doing paintings, that are really good twice, because I had to copy it, because I wanted the same painting. Okay, we're gonna go in here, now I'm going down and get our darks here. You notice how I'm working with a very cool color. That makes it look more like a shadow, because it is shadowed, and this is the light. So the lights are, you're saying that they're warm, and everything else is going to be cool. And so you can have a little bit of warmth in the other parts, but you want to pretty much keep at leaving this cool. Keep the edges cool. And then I'm going to put a little bit of lavender here. I mix that with the blue, and then I'm going to come down here, and this is really, like, these trees are really dark right here. Go over my watermark here a little bit, and then these trees are going to be really dark. So this may look really dark right now, but it's going to be a lot more darker than this part. Now I put little trees up here too. I know there's none in the picture, but I'm going to put a little bit of excitement over on this side. And then these trees are going to overlap too. And I'm going to, here's a little bit of this and a little shoreline here. Not sure why I kept this white light here, so I'm going to go over that. Put a little bit of reflection in the water. You can do that right away because it's dry already too. I'm going to make a little bit of more of a dark purple and my black here. I'm taking a black, look at this, I'm taking a black. Just going to put it right over there because it has a little purple in it. So it makes my purple even darker when I add a little bit of black to it. And there's no problem with that. Don't be afraid to putting some darker things like that in there. Now back here, I'm going to put a little more blue. I'm back here because this is, I'm not going to worry so much about the texture back here because this is farther away. So I don't feel like I need to put that much texture in back here. Because I want it to fall back. And again, it is a painting and I don't have to follow exactly to a T what's happening in the photograph. John Pike palette is pretty good. Yeah, John Pike palette is a thicker plastic. So yeah, that's a good one. It's much better than these cheap plastic ones, but probably a little bit more expensive. You gotta figure, I go through these things though, like every 6 months I have to exchange because I use it so much and it works around so much that I definitely have to change this palette all the time. The thing I don't like most about these palettes is I can't move my colors around. Once they're in there into the palette, they're stuck there. And a lot of times when I'm doing a different painting, I would like to be able to put other colors in there and take colors out. And so I don't need all these colors. I don't use all these colors at once. So I'd like to have a palette where I can take the colors in and out and the ones I'm using. So that's what I'm hoping to plan up, little lip balm things are going to be what I actually have the lip balm things right here that I'm going to be using for the palette. I'll show you real quick. This is what I'm going to be using for the new palette I'm going to be making. It's going to be these lip balm. It's basically opens up, and you can put the color in there, and then it'll have a magnet in the bottom, and it'll be placed onto the other metallic metal. And so this is where you're going to put your paint. And it comes with a lid. So if you're not using it, you can put the lid on and it'll go right back in. So those are the start of some of the palette. Alright, so now we've got that covered. And now let's go to our darks. Tom Lynch palette looks pretty nice, but maybe not enough wells. Yeah, I've never seen I know he has that porcelain tray or palette. But that's like, I think that thing's like $100 or something. It's like, I'm not going to be paying $100 for a palette. Okay, so now we're going to go into doing these trees right here. And so I'm going to use my round brush for that. And notice this part's a little wet right there. And so we're going to get a hard edge now, and we're going to go dark. We are going Prussian blue. God, look at that. It's just like, so flimsy. So there in black, and some carnelian gold, which is right here. Let me make that, look at that green I'm making. Isn't that a nice green? But I'm going to make it a little bit bluer because I really don't have green in here, and you know me and green. And a little bit of violet, and they'll dull it down, that green a little bit. And a little bit of black. And we're going to make it really dark, and we're just going to come in here and start doing the tops of the trees. And we don't have to make it super, super dark because we're still going to, these are going to be the darkest trees in the front, so we don't have to make it quite as dark as this. Maybe put a little bit of blue in there. And so, and these are not hit by the light, and so I don't want them to be hit by the light because that'll take away from this part, and I want the light to hit right up there. And this probably is not even dark enough, and I can go over that in a second. Hold on. I'm just going to put this in here real quick. And we're just going to put that in here and get it. See how the brush is almost like the shape of a tree, the top of the tree, so I'm just kind of like dabbing it down to make the look. And you can even flick upwards. If you flick upwards, you get kind of a nice little effect of pine trees too. They're just kind of flicking up. It's like when I do that thing where I kind of push my brush and use the back parts of that. You just go like that. Then I'm going to wet it. Now I'm going to wet it, and if you notice in this one, it almost looks like it's kind of misty in here. I kind of like that. I kind of like that look of mistiness. And I kept these trees a little bit tighter there. So we're going to just go in here and put a little bit more of a, let's get a little more purple in here. It's a little bit too green. Again, I don't want it to be so bright a color either. I want this to really be the brightest, and just let that sing up there. And again, this was not dark enough, so I'm going to have to go in there, darn it. And I don't like doing that. I like getting it right away, because every time you go into your painting, unless it's wet, it gets less and less vibrant. And so we're going to go in here. Any questions? These are great design ideas. I'm definitely be waiting for the new. Okay, the pack. Lou Taylor has his own with glued down milk jug caps. That could be good too. Yeah, I can't believe nobody's actually done one. I actually do the palettes I'm going to be doing. It's already made small, like really small, those little container things. But like with your, it's like a plein air set where you're using those little what do you call those? Oh boy, what do you call those? The small dabs of watercolor. Somebody help me. The now. So here, now I'm going to do the land, do it a little bit lighter. So I'm going to put a little bit of warmth in here because it is a little bit, I want it not to be as green as this because this is land, so like kind of a brownish, reddish earth tone. And so I'm putting it right in there. So tell me the name of what's the little squares you buy of watercolor. What are those called? I'm just going blank on that right now. somebody answer me that. I know that you guys know it. So we get a little dark in there. So now I'm going to go in here with a really dark right on the bottom, like you're looking inside underneath the trees here. A little bit dark and a little like the trunks of the trees in there, make it nice and dark. And then when that dries, I'm gonna put some shadow on there. And then I'm gonna do these trees right here and make a little bit. Right now it's wet, I can't make it realistic. But I'm gonna go in there and actually make a couple of trees that stick out of there a little bit more pronounced, and that'll help that part out. Then right away I'm gonna put the edge of the land here, a little dark there. And then right away into the water. Half pans, yes, pans. Half pans, thank you, Lynn. The half pans, I mean, they make pallets already that have the half pans. And cakes, yes, watercolor cakes and pans. Those are what I'm talking about. Thank you guys. So Paula and Lynn, you get the award. So yes, those are, they already make pallets with, but they're so small, they're like this big, and so, they're like this big, and so I wanted something that's like this big. Like this, almost not quite as big as this palette, but, and then I have a lid on it and stuff. Pans, you guys got it. Thank you. God, I can't believe I forgot that. It's just, it was not coming to me. You know how that happens sometimes. I guess it's the older I'm getting. So now we're going to do these reflections into the water. And when you're doing the reflections in the water, see how you just, a lot of those pan colors that they come in pans, the little ones, and they're like for plein air painting. There's a lot been made out there already. But I just want to make one of those bigger and not have the pan so small, because those little those cakes and pans, they're so small, I can't put my brush in there. So I need to have at least an inch or two. And these lip balm things are great because they're 2 inches by 1 inch. So that'd be a great size for that. All right, so there's my reflection from this into the water. And again, always go with the color of the water a little bit darker first, and then I'm making hard edges, and depends on how. If the water has a little bit of ripple in it, my teacher always told me, put a little ripple in the water. That way it looks like it's more moving a little bit more. If it is like a Bob Ross does, where it's really slick and like a mirror, then you can go downwards and make it just blend itself together. But I was always told never to make it like that, because you don't know if you're painting upside down or right side up. So now we're gonna go. And now this is almost dry, yeah. And so when I put this on there, make sure it's dry when you put your trees on top of this, because that's the thing next. And these trees, I'm going to use my round brush. I say use my small one. I'm going to use my small one. I can't do it here yet, so I'm going to go over here. And these have to be really dark. And if you look at what I did, I must have made them black. Now even though I put light on top of them, you'd have to put mascoid. And if you didn't want to use white paint, then put mascoid there for those trees, the treetops. Because I want them to kind of light up against the dark, and so then you would put masking fluid there first. And so then for this is it's pretty much dark, really, really dark. It's got to be the darkest part because it's silhouetted almost against the foreground. And I moved them over again because you don't want them right where they are. But that's where a photographer doesn't have the choice. They have to put it in there because it's right there in the center of almost not the center, but it's right where you want to look. And so I'm moving it over so I can see down the river. And we as artists can do that. And I'm gonna move these over, and I'm not gonna put that one in that's all the way on the edge right there. I'm gonna make it tall, but I will bring it in a little bit. And so the amount of number of the trees, we can do the same thing. These trees in the photograph are all the same size almost. I'm gonna make them a little bit different. So that's what you as an artist want to do. All right, and so let's go right to it. And well, we got plenty of time here. Ask some questions here, guys. We're getting this really quickly, this one. And so now I go down here. I'm just going to kind of, I flick my brush I kind of go down little by little, I make a little bit of the trunk, and then I put the branches on there. And I like to push my brush into the direction, and it uses the underside of the painting. Actually, look at it. let's see, we've got a sheet of paper. Here we go. So, again, this is my trick where I kind of bend the brush. You can see that I kind of bend it, and I use the back of the brush. A little bit closer. I'm using the back of the brush to kind of make the edge. I don't use a tip to make that. I bend it and I go on an angle, and it kind of gives me that look of pine needles hanging outwards, right? So I'm going like this, and I'm bending like that, so you can't see that far away, but that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of bending the brush, and I'm using the bottom part of the bristles to get that look of the pine needles. It's a very, I just learned it by just using my brush a little bit, and see how you guys kind of push it towards the edge. And put a little bit of the trunk, and then I make the branches. And don't make these all the same. So many times people do do these pine trees, and they all are the same, one after another, the same. No, they're not the same. Make them a lot different. Make them so that they're so totally different that one doesn't look anything like the other one. You know, the branches are broken in nature, that they're not Christmas trees. They don't go there and somebody's trimming them every year to make them perfect trees. No, they're getting branches that are blowing off in the wind, and some are dying, the branches, so don't make it even. Look at how this one, I'm getting a little bit darker, and also leave a space empty, you know, and just kind of, so there's one. And when it's wet, you can also put other colors in there, like if I want to put maybe a little bit of red in there, a little warmth, I can do that. But really dark, I want these really dark because they got to stand forward. They're silhouetted basically against the front. How often do I get new brushes with the amount of paint? Well, the funny thing is that I was just telling people I do need to get some new brushes because these are about 9 years old, I think now. Again, these are ones that I started out with. And I did put that red on the one video I showed you guys how to put the plastic on there. But they're starting to lose their point a little bit after like 9 years and many thousands of paintings. I'm losing a little bit of it, but really look at that one. That's got a pretty sharp edge on it still. This one, now this round one, is a little bit, it's losing a little bit more of its edge, but it's amazing. This is just, you know, these are my brushes that I sell online, but, you know, they're pretty inexpensive for, like, you're not spending $100 on one brush. And so they last pretty well. I'm surprised that, but I just saw somebody bought a new set of my brushes, and I worked with them, and I was like, wow, I should get myself a new pair of brushes too, because boy, it's like when they're brand new, that tip on there is just so sharp. So I may have to do that. I may have to splurge and buy my own brushes off me. I just put an order in because I was running out, and I have to order them from at 100 at a time. So it was I got like 400 brushes now. So if you guys need brushes, I have them. So here we're gonna go, and again, I'm pushing them like this. But these will last even a long time. I mean, they're still great, and I can do everything with them, but it's nice to see, and getting a brand new brush is always fun. But then I have to put the stuff on them again, because I must say, it has helped when it comes to breaking off the paint and stuff and leaving them in the water. I mean, nothing happens now, because it's got the plastic grip on there. And actually, I kind of like the grip, and it bounces too. See, you can just bounce it, you can bounce it out. And now we're doing a couple little, see, I'm just putting a little bit different trees in here, different sizes. You know, there's even different kinds of pine trees that you can do too. They're not all like the blue spruce or something. There's different pine trees, and those are all the same, looks like in the picture. But you can add a different kind of tree if you want. So again, and see, this is not getting dark enough, so I got to get a little bit darker. These got to be rich darks. And you can put a little bit of light blue in there too. Once you have it watered down, you can always float things in there too. And now I'm going to put one on the edge, because I kind of liked this when I did it here. I kind of put it on the edge too. I thought that was kind of neat. Let me just put a taller one, maybe right on the edge here. And this is probably not that fun to watching, because this is just tedious detail work. There's not much you learn from me doing details. It's the other fact that I'm copying what's kind of like the tree looks like. And so I'm just gonna do what the picture shows me. Maybe a little foliage down here. And so then maybe here, instead of, I'm gonna do this one smaller. And this, I did the pencil line, and that's why I was telling some people that don't even sketch this in. Don't even have to pencil that in, because you can pretty much do the trees on your own. Unless you really feel like you need to do exactly like the tree is, then definitely pencil it in. But just try to do some trees on the side. You get a scrap sheet of paper, and try to do some trees that are not, drawn in. See if you can't do some trees from your imagination. This one I'm going to do a little bit taller. And maybe put a little bit of green in there too, because this one may be a little bit greener. So this one I'm going to go. And I kind of put the leaves going down, or the branches going downwards. But there are some pine trees where they go upwards. They kind of go up, and I think those are more California pines that you see. The cypress, not the cypress. What do they call those? But yeah, so there's different kind of pine trees. So just practice different pine trees. Go online, Google pine trees, and see what kind there are, and just practice with them. That's the way to do it. Just practice different things. Look at how Bob Ross's looks. Happy little tree, happy little painting. So I'm gonna go in here. I don't have a squirrel running around my around my studio, but let's see. I think there's probably a raccoon out there. I have a raccoon living underneath my deck, so it's like I have him come in. All right, and so we can go down here. And so I know that you can't see this right now because it's dark on dark, but that's where I'm going to put in the light. I'm going to go back into that and make a nice light. This time I'm going to put the tree way up here. I'm going to start at dark, and when I get down here I'm going to get light, and I'm going to go dark again. Which wouldn't happen, right? Because the sun would be hitting that one too. But artistic license, we can do anything we want. So right here I'm going to put some light in there. There's a cloud that's right on this exact branch. Way over here, there's a cloud, and it's gonna see. There's always explanation. You can always say that. All right, so we're gonna go in here. Look at it, I'm just wiggling my hand, and it's like if you're really nervous or you have a twitch, you know, that's fine. This is perfect for you. See, I'm just going in there and putting it. I've always put the branch or the trunk in, and I kind of go around the trunk then. And again, not the same. Don't try to make it the same. Try to make it a little bit different. Each brush stroke that you do, try to think of how else can I do the brush stroke. You know, this is a little bit wider, and then I can put a little bit of warmth in there. Let's put a little bit of warmth in there. Because once it's wet, you can float other colors in there. You don't have to stick with the one color. I'll put a little bit of red in there. So you just make it a little bit different. Especially on the one side, it'd be darker because the sun's, even though the sun's not shining on there, it could still be darker on this side because the light is coming from that direction. Even if it's not hitting it, there's still light. Otherwise, it's nighttime, right? And you won't see anything. And actually, by putting a little bit of violet in, this makes it even darker than the blue dark I was using. Makes it look a little bit darker. A little small tree here. I'm going to use my rigger because the rigger is always a fun thing to try using a rigger. And actually, I was going to show you guys in one of my newsletters. I'm going to show you a pinstriping brush, and a friend of mine and I were using it, and it's kind of neat. It's a kind of neat little brush, and I think some people call it dragon tongue or something. It's a real long pinstriping brush, and Holbein has that in this set too. And I'm going to try that, and I think it's perfect for doing some fun things where you use it and you can make some really cool effects with that brush. I think I have it right here, but otherwise I'll show you. But we're going to save that for another newsletter. And so here we go. We're going to bring this down. And then the only thing I'm going to do is in here. Remember I said I was going to do a couple of little trees that are a little bit more detailed. And then we're going to be almost done. So I'm going to go back up in here and do a few that are a little bit more detailed than what you see them. They weren't just put in, because it's like the center of interest, so you can put like trunks in there, and it's not, you know, it's okay to put a little detail in the center of interest. You want that anyways, and so I'm putting a little bit of detail in that area using my rigger. And put little trunks in there, I'll put some shadows across that. And I still got to do the light parts anyways, so I got to put the light parts and put little chunks of trees. And I did want to, since this didn't get dark enough, I want to put a little bit more dark in there. So let me just really quickly put a little bit more dark in that area. I use a little bit darker blue this time. And just, especially if something coming off the hill here, I thought that was kind of nice how it comes down here. And there's a little bit of snow right between this area and the mountain. And so make that a little bit darker over there. And get a little more texture too. You know, people say you can't go back into watercolors. You can go as many times as you like, as long as you keep it, you know, direct and wet and right on top, and make sure you have enough pigment when you go in the second time to cover up what's underneath, and let that float. As long as you let it float, it'll be fine. Any questions? Nope. All right, so. And again, I was about next week. I'll be in. If there's 2 more people that want to take that workshop in Winona, I will be doing next Thursday. I will be doing the paint along in the studio there in the morning, the Mississippi Morning Art Studio, and so we'll have some fun there. And actually, you can also go there and watch that on a Thursday night live. And they're inviting people to go and watch me. So if you can't do the workshop, but you want to go there, you can still do that too. And then let's put a couple of little trees over here, make it a little bit darker. A bit of the into the water. And then here, that's kind of nice how I have it. I don't think I want to change too much there. Maybe a little bit darker to show the difference between where it's light and where it's dark. A little bit of texture is always good. A little texture there. This is more of a tint. Again, it's not so much a really thick amount of pigment. It's just a little tint, a little detail. It's always good to put detail in the center of interest. You don't have to worry about that. It's going to make it look gooder, better. Gooder. I've been having too much of this. What do you call it? The Flensburger Dunkel. Made it at the end. All right. So I think all I have left is just a little bit of shadow. I want to put some shadow coming off these tree trunks into the woods. And then maybe a little bit of this reflecting into the water. Because again, this is center of interest right in here. The mountain, this whole area is the center of interest. So don't be afraid of putting detail in that. And make it a happy little painting. Because it is about Ross, a happy little painting. And next week we are doing a tugboat like they have on the Mississippi River. So we're going to be doing a tugboat. And there is also in Winona, there's supposed to be a museum. I just looked up a museum that have many famous masters' works and marines, which is my favorite. I mean, I love water and boats. And so the only thing I have left is the light. So I'm going to take actually white and orange. I'm just going to put that right, as you can tell, I already did that. White and orange. And I'm going to use that to make my trees pop out, like where the light's hitting. So the same technique that you just used for the branches, you can do that with the white paint. And so I'm just going to go in there and with the tops of the branches, and I'm using mostly on the left side of the branch. How about a little texture in the gold mountain peak? See, I should do that too, shouldn't I? Hold on. Thank you, Anne. So we're going to do this, a little light in there. See how it lights up the little bit part of the top of the tree, because that would be lit up a little bit because maybe the light's hitting right there, like it is hitting the. And so I put a little bit over here too. And just make it the sides. You don't have to make it all, just the left side of the tree, and even this one, there's not that much dark behind it, but enough to make it just like it's hitting the side of the branch. And don't go down too far, because otherwise it hits all those too. You just want the tops of them, like the mountains. You want to do just the tops, just the little tops there, so you can just kind of make it look like it's hitting the top of the trees. And again, look at I'm going in there and just using a brush and just letting it hit the tops there a little bit more here. What are we doing? Oh, 2 minutes. All right, Ann, hold on. I'm going to get that texture up there. Sorry, slowing down too much. Okay, so texture in here. I'm going to put a little on the dark side and put a little bit darker. And I'm using my rigger brush because I can get a little texture by wiggling the brush back and forth a little bit. And look at that. See that? Instant texture. And look at the mountain, it's dark on this side, the right side, and then left side, you put a little texture in there, and we're good to go. Look at that. Perfect timing. How about over here? That too? Oh yeah, we gotta do that too. A little bit darker in here because it's closer up. A little texture in there. Kathy says it's a wonderful museum. So glad you're going there. I'm going to try to see that. I mean, that's my favorite, is marine paintings, and this is a marine paintings by the masters. So that's going to be kind of neat. I can't wait to go see that. And let me just one more thing here. This didn't get light enough, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter here. Maybe on this side a little bit. Still got some little bit of time here. All right, so there we have it. Let's take the tape off and call it a night. And so next week, oh boy, that's a little too much. Looking at my screen and I'm like, oh boy, that's got kind of messy. Hold on. It got a little messy. I don't want to end it with that. So I put these branches back in there. Excuse me. Alright, that's better. Okay, let's take the tape off this thing. Any last question? Bob Ross would be proud. Yeah, as we were talking about him in class today, and I mean, everybody knows Bob Ross, and he was so much fun to watch. And I actually started out with more Bill Alexander. I like Bill Alexander more because I watched more of his than I watched of Bob Ross's. And boy, that guy, William Alexander, with his brush and hitting it across the ladder, and if you remember that. But he was the first, and I think I haven't watched that Bob Ross movie yet, but I heard it's not so great a movie, or it really puts him down or whatever. They get. So here we go. So there you have it. And this is the one this afternoon. Pretty close. A little bit different. This is a little bit more orange, a little bit more yellow. It's all good. Give it a shot. Have fun. Show me on my Facebook page, my Facebook group page, BeckerArt Group, and put it up there. And thanks, guys, for doing that. I love seeing your guys' work, and you guys are getting really, really good. So we'll see you next week in Winona. Finally, we will be going to Winona next week on Thursday. I will be there, and we'll be painting together and live. All right. And so again, we're going to be doing a tugboat. It's not a tugboat from the Mississippi, but hey, this is one picture I could find on Splash. So all right, until next week.